Okay. You can probably see this right now, which isn't good. But awesome. So I am. Yeah, that's okay. I guess if you can see this, that's fine. I don't think I have anything secret here. I don't have a second monitor currently, but I'm anticipating. This is the first time, obviously, I've streamed on anything ever. So I'm. If there's sound issues, let me know. I'll just see notifications pop up because right now I'm only working on one screen. So, based on the title of the stream, you're probably thinking I'm going to talk about Section 230, which I am. But first, I need to talk about Lord McAlpine and the Kiwi Farms. And if you don't know what those are, that's totally okay. Lord McAlpine was a, maybe still is, I don't know, a British politician who, in 2012, there was a documentary released by the BBC that implied he was a predator of some kind. And he sued them, of course. He sued the BBC and said, that they didn't say his name, but they did imply he was a predator of some kind. And so he was able to sue them and get some money out of them. I'm going to adjust my microphone. Sorry for the noise, if there is any. So anyway, he sued them and won. Well, he settled outside of court. I mean, I consider that winning. He got paid a lot of money, but he didn't technically win a judgment. He just settled outside of court. Anyway, the damage had already been done. And 1,000 people roundabout on Twitter tweeted the accusation that he was a predator. And about 9,000 people retweeted the accusation. So what did Lord McAlpine do? He sued all of those people, around all the ones he could find anyway. Around 10,000 people were sued by Lord McAlpine. Whoever he could find, basically, he settled with or he won in court. I don't think he lost any of those cases. The most famous one is this gentleman over here. What's his name? Alan Davies, who paid him $15,000. So you can imagine if he had sued all 10,000 people and they paid this much, exactly how much he would have gotten. It would have been insane. He had to delete the tweet. He apologized. He paid Lord McAlpine £15,000, not dollars. And then he donated an additional amount of money. I don't think they said how much, to a local charity. And that was it. All because this guy tweeted and or retweeted an accusation that wasn't true. Now, what's interesting about that story is that Lord McAlpine sued the BBC, and he won all that money. And then he had to sue 10,000 people on Twitter to get recompense for the accusation that was seemingly not true. But he didn't sue Twitter directly. And you might wonder why. Like, why would he sue the BBC, which is obviously much easier than suing 10,000 individuals, but then on Twitter sue 10,000 individuals? And there's a reason for that, and the reason for that is basically Section 230, Part C, Part 1, or I'm sure there's some legal way to say this, I just don't know. But anyway, so that story aside, I guess I should say, I know I said my next video was going to be about WeChat. Obviously, I just wanted to do this real quick, and I recorded this in my car. Like, sometimes I post those videos and me ranting in my car. And I was so tired of editing it and redoing it, I was just like, screw it, I'm just going to do it live, and then we'll that'll be it. We will just see how it goes. So sorry if you're listening to this later and you hear me stuttering a lot, stammering a lot. It's because I'm doing this live and I don't edit those things out, obviously, live. Anyway, so Section 230 is actually quite long. In the title of the video, I mentioned it was 26 words. There's a lot more to it than just that. The important part that everyone cares about is this here, though. These are the 26 words I was referring to, which say, no provider or user of an interactive computer service, which means things like Twitter, Facebook, shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Now, if you're wondering what information content provider means, I brought that up as well. It means information content provider, the term, means any person or entity that is responsible in whole or in part for the creation or development of information provided through the internet, capital I internet, or any other interactive computer service. So an information content provider is someone posting something online. So if we go back to the Lord McAlpine example, Twitter cannot be held liable based on these 26 words for information posted on their platform. You cannot sue Twitter if someone on Twitter of their own volition, accuses you of being a predator. You have to sue the person individually. So why am I talking about Section 230? Because right now in America, as the election's getting nearer, it's an issue that's coming up more and more and being spoken about more and more, which is basically, what should we do about it? Both presidential candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, have expressed interest in wanting to repeal it entirely, this entire thing, just repeal it. The effect of that would mean that someone like Lord McAlpine or anyone could sue Twitter for defamation or potential defamation posted on their website, and the lawsuits wouldn't be thrown out immediately, citing the Section 230 protection. Some people, like Trump, and Biden, view this as a good thing because basically what their argument is that these big platforms, I'm going to keep using Twitter as the example to keep it simple, but this works for any of them, Patreon, Facebook, even MySpace or something, all the big names in tech, they enjoy this protection. Also, to make it more clear, because as I'm speaking, it's occurring to me, I don't think I made it entirely clear. Section 230, if like the Washington Post posts an article that accuses Lord McAlpine of being a predator, they can be sued. But if someone in the comment section of that article calls him a predator, the Washington Post can't be sued. He has to sue that individual. And the reason for that is, colloquially, they call it platforms versus publishers. So in the article sense of Washington Post, they publish and editorialize the articles they post, but they don't publish and editorialize the comments. So that's the main difference, is that they can't be held liable for the things said in the comments. There are some exceptions to that, but I won't go into that now. No point. So let me check over here real quick. Sorry. Oof. I'm definitely going to have to get another monitor. That's going to be really annoying. I can't just keep on checking back over there. I got a size issue, a resolution issue that I'm not able to troubleshoot because it's on the same screen I'm on. Anyway, let me continue. So I'm talking about, I don't really have a point in this video. I just kind of wanted to rant about this a little bit because if you're a fan of Section 230, which I am for reasons I'll get to in a little bit, you're in a stressful situation, which is currently the president and the opposing candidate, the person who's not the incumbent, they both want to do away with Section 230 for different reasons, but to the same effect. Really the same reason, they just have different points of view, but it's the same reason why they want to get rid of it, which is these companies have enjoyed so much protection from this law and not given anything in return. And now it's clear that these sites are centralized locations for severe issues in our country and around the world. Facebook being able to censor I guess I should say first that I'm not really a fan of Trump or Biden, so I'm not making these arguments because I'm pro or against either of them, but these are the arguments they make. From the Facebook point of view, they're able to block and censor certain information based on really their own frivolous ideas, but they can do it based on where you live, based on how they feel you should feel. There was that article that came out so many years ago, whenever that Analytica stuff was coming out, where basically there was an insider who was saying, if you're a Facebook user who uses it more than 1 hour per day, the odds that you've been involved in a social experiment are between 99 and 100%. And those social experiments included things like seeing if they could affect your mood by showing you depressing updates, because you'll notice on Facebook, the updates, they're not in order. They're not like in timeline order, because that would make the most sense. They're like in keyword order that you don't know because it's part of some experiment you're being used in, but you're not privy to. Anyway, there's all that. I used to have rants about that online. I took down, they weren't on YouTube, but I have a lot of feelings on how these companies utilize this, how they mess with your brain in an attempt to see if it gets you to use their platform for longer periods. Anyway, these companies have pretty much been able to work under the table, do all this stuff behind the scenes, and they've been able to have people, whether they provoke the responses or not, post whatever they want on their platforms. And as long as they're making a good faith effort to keep illegal material off of their platforms, people can say whatever they want, and the companies themselves are not held liable. From Trump's perspective, he's saying, look, this is being used to censor right-wingers and right-wing politics on these massive, massive communication platforms. And from Biden's perspective, he's saying these platforms are being used to organize hate groups and to spread hate speech in ways we've never precedented before, and it's causing civil unrest globally and, of course, domestically for us in America. Something like that. I've paraphrased both those arguments, but they're I think the heart of them is there. I think they would both agree that that's a fair characterization. So they've talked about repealing it. Trump is currently pushing, this is on Trump's priority list, way higher than it is on Joe Biden's, because basically Trump is under the impression, well, I mean, he's actually right. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like him or not. He is correct about this, that Twitter is unfairly targeting him. And they're doing that by whenever he posts something that is factually incorrect, they're flagging his tweets and putting a little message at the bottom saying, here's a link to some articles that counter the information, why it may or may not be true, what he's tweeting about. But they aren't doing that for Biden, who the BBC, assumedly, ostensibly unbiased source in this election, and even if they were biased, it's almost like they would be biased in favor of Biden and not Trump. They fact-checked some of the claims Biden made and he tweeted about on the day of the first presidential debate, and they completely debunked them. They're like, these are not true. But Twitter doesn't flag Biden's tweets. And so Trump is right. They are unfairly targeting him. And his point is, as it gets closer to the election, he's basically threatening Twitter by saying, I'm going to repeal Section 230, which means any site that is just a forum for communication, like YouTube would survive, I think Facebook would survive, but like Reddit and Twitter would not. Anything that's just a forum for communication would be sued into oblivion the moment Section 230 is repealed, which brings me on to what I mentioned earlier about the kiwi farms. So one of the reasons why I like Section 230, I'm no fan of the kiwi farms, but I like small sites having the ability to basically come up. And Kiwi Farms was an experiment. I guess I won't just say Kiwi Farms, because Kiwi Farms and 8chan were both an experiment in the same way, which was basically they were going to be these very unique online forums that I guess attracted people who were interested in a certain subsets of internet culture. 8chan was more experimental than Kiwi Farms, because Kiwi Farms was like specifically let's talk about and document weirdos on the internet, and 8chan was I want to see what happens if we create a Reddit where basically users can create their own. Basically, it was like Reddit. It was basically a more anonymous. Users can create their own subreddits or sub-chans, whatever it's called. I don't know. So basically, it was a image board Reddit hybrid with very little moderation, intentionally, and it was kind of an experiment in that way. And so I like that idea. I'm not a fan of either of those places. I've talked about that before, but the idea, I think, is great. And those sites, they never would survive if it wasn't for Section 230, because they do enjoy this Section 230C1 protection, this one I just talked about. As long as they're doing good faith moderation, they don't have any reason at all to be afraid of starting a site. You, right now, don't have any reason at all to be afraid of starting a site like more experimental than 8chan or Kiwi Farms, for example. You don't have any reason at all to be afraid of that because you would be protected under this American law. Assuming you were hosting it or the business was started in America or based out of America. I think 8chan, famously, the creators didn't live in America. The administrators didn't, but it was hosted out of America, which is why. Actually, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a lawyer on this. I don't know what the rules are surrounding that. I'm not sure if you have to just have like an LLC set up in America for this to work, and you can host it anywhere. I guess you would have to, because like DigitalOcean operates under American law, but they obviously have servers all around the world. That's one of the things they offer, is that you can use servers from anywhere. So anyway, Sorry, I went back to check and see if I was still getting that issue. I still am. So honestly, I guess I'll take this time to say, if anyone sees this in the future, I'm gonna start taking streaming and doing YouTubing a little bit more seriously. There was a guy I met years ago who was like super into fitness, and I was always like, what is it with you? Like, how do you do this? Like, all he did was like eat, breathe, and live fitness, and I thought that seems like such a crazy thing. Like, I've never felt that way. And I was like, how do you stay so inspired to do it? Because every day he would spend like, a job's length amount of time, like 4 to 6 hours, just focusing on meal prepping or exercising or whatever, whatever else he was doing. And he said, every time I get demotivated, I buy myself something related to it to like kind of rekindle my interest and remind myself it's a hobby. I remember thinking, that's stupid. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But I tried it recently. Long story short, after Corona, I had a lot more, work emergencies come up, things I had to work on, and I stopped doing music. I used to do electronic and I guess analog, non-electronic music a lot. And I haven't done it at all since Corona started. But I went out and I bought a new interface. And all of a sudden, I'm doing it again. And I thought, you know what, maybe that's a good idea. So I was thinking about taking this a little more seriously, and I thought I should buy a new microphone, because the one I'm using now, I've had for like 12 years. And if anyone has a suggestion, that was the whole reason I went off on that entire tangent, was just to say, if anyone has a suggestion for a microphone that's not like, I don't need to start my own radio show. I don't need something crazy, but it would be nice to have something nicer than what I have now. I just have a USB Blue microphone, like from before Blue was a thing, before anyone knew what it was, before every streamer ever had a Blue Yeti. This is before Yeti, I think. It's just Blue. It's like S2 something. I don't know. Anyway, it's really old. So anyway, let me know. Okay. Tangent. Didn't mean to say that. Sorry. Overall, the reason why, and like I said, there wasn't really a point to this video. I'm going to wrap up here in a bit. But the reason why I kind of wanted to rant about this and talk about it and get back on to talking about 230 at all is because the internet, after the repeal of 230, which again, I don't think it'll be repealed. I think Biden and Trump are both saying that to threaten these companies into changing their behavior. I think what they're going to do is they're going to revise it or amend it. There have already been proposed amendments. I think actually one that didn't have a huge impact was passed recently. You have to fact check me on that. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure there was an amendment made to 230 recently that didn't affect this part, C1, which I'm looking at here. I'm highlighting now on the screen if you're looking. But it did affect something. So I think what these guys want to do is they want to amend it, they want to change it, they want to make it so these companies don't have insane amounts of power as far as controlling, or in some cases not controlling, from the Biden perspective, powerful movements on their sites. But they also want to keep the idea that some company can start some small experiment. And because remember, you guys have to remember, I don't know if anyone here is old enough or who watches my channel is old enough to remember when Twitter wasn't a thing, when it was a joke people laughed at because it was back then, it was like 120 characters, I think, or maybe it was even 60. And it was just laughable. I mean, it was a silly, goofy thing where people posted like haikus and like, it was like Vine for words for like witty people. And then all of a sudden news started getting onto it. Like people would say, they would post links to news articles, and it was all of a sudden the place where news traveled fastest. Like seconds after an event happened, you could find it on Twitter. And you could almost always verify it was true. And so Twitter was an experiment. And Twitter would have been sued into dust and ash if Section 230 didn't exist when it was created. So this law has to exist in some way. I don't like how powerful these companies have gotten either, guys, but this law has to exist in some way for innovative ideas like that to exist in the future of the internet. So anyway, kind of want to just get it out there, let people know my thoughts on it. I'm a huge fan of Section 230, especially C1, this part here. I agree that there's a problem with how free, well, free is the wrong word. I don't want to say, we need to be less free. No, there was obviously no foresight, because how could there have been, for how quickly these companies grew to be just massive giants that are playing huge parts in political games. You guys, of course, would remember in the last election, if you followed the American election at all, from 2016, that Facebook was heavily accused of being a platform where anti-Trump and anti-Clinton propaganda was propagated. Twitter was too. There was, of course, you still hear the meme about Russian bots on Twitter posting misinformation and FUD. You still hear about that. And these companies never anticipated getting to that point. So I do agree, it's almost like they're too powerful. It's almost like they're too important for what they are, which were basically, they all started as cute ways to, cute things to show your grandma on the internet. That's how they all started. But now they've grown into this thing where, think about the fact that if Twitter were to ban one of the presidential candidates' accounts in America while they were campaigning, just think of what that would do. If Trump's account got banned or deleted, or Biden's account got banned or deleted, I think that would actually incite physical violence in the real world, in meat space, not cyberspace. And I don't think they can do it. If you guys might remember that liberal who was fired from Twitter, and their last day they deleted the president's account, which actually I thought was pretty funny. I mean, it's obviously it was a terrible idea, and I think that person actually faced legal charges, but it's pretty funny, delete the president's account. But that highlighted the whole issue, which is, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, is he just the CEO in spirit, or is he actually still there? Let's say he is, because I don't want to fact check myself right now. Jack Dorsey is the owner of this company, and he's incapable of deleting certain accounts. It doesn't matter if the president says the most dangerous thing in the world on Twitter. While he's campaigning, he is unable to delete his account without inciting some kind of very serious real-world backlash. Anyway, it's all very interesting, and Section 230 allowed them to get here, so I understand the complaints about it needing to be revised, but at the same time, if we get rid of it, small experimental sites, even ones that I may not be a fan of, like the Kiwi Farms or 8chan, I think that the future of the internet is in allowing those to exist, and Section 230 is unique to American law. It's nowhere else. Noel, the owner of Kiwi Farms, has talked about this extensively. And again, whether you like him or not, we disagree on certain things, we agree on others, but he said, he's spent most of his young life living in other countries for various reasons, and he spends a lot of time reading the free speech laws of other countries. And he said he's read the laws of Uruguay, Rwanda, Ukraine, Poland, and nowhere where he thought it would be safe to host his site is there a law as powerful as Section 230 protecting small site owners from the crazy things their users might say. So anyway, that's it. I'm probably going to stop going live now. It's been about, 20 minutes. A bit of a rough start there if you were on. I expect most people will see this after it's published and not live. Recommendation for a microphone, please, if you have one. That would be cool. If you thought this was cool, let me know. Obviously, I'm going to do the WeChat video next. After seeing some of the things that just happened recently on Twitter and seeing Trump once again pushing to repeal Section 230, I just wanted to talk about this. And that's pretty much all I got. Thanks, everybody. No, now I got to figure out how to stop streaming. Oh, God.